NLP is service. It's a kind of a new trend. It's happening now. The reason it is happening is because there are more and more resources being put into the NLP domain, and more people come in. So like an ecosystem is become getting mature basically. So that's the process. Like I mentioned before, is a Web 3.0. In Web 3.0, everyone will be able to leverage those AI capabilities with just a click of a few clicks, a few lines of code. So that's why you can see there are more of this kind of company booming. For example, Hugginface and spaCy, they basically not provided as a service, but they provide a free open source software for you. And some other things like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they still like providing those APIs. It's like SaaS. You pay for the API, then you can enjoy the NLP capabilities. And these two are categories they already been existing in NLP for over 5 years at least. And today I just saw another company, they raised a certain amount of money. It's called NLP Cloud.io. It's a fairly new company. In fact, it's my first time hear this, but I do see more and more of these companies, these startups, they showing up in these 2 years. So NLP as a service, it's a very sexy term. I think they will be a new buzzword, and it may not be used usually when you see the buzzword, before that they are kind of finalizing which word it has like a most influential power. And NLP as a service, probably not. Probably they'll come up with some other words. For example, like big data. Big data is basically to use statistics to analyze large data. And big data is just happen to be the phrase that's so catchy, so you kind of spread it real fast. NLP as a service, probably not. Okay, so anyway, I analyze there's a SaaS services like Google, Amazon. There's open source models like Hugginface, spaCy. But what if I tell you there's something in between? SaaS service is basically like API. It's not really SaaS, but it's API service. You just pay for APIs. For example, you want to do a certain task, maybe sentiment analysis. You don't want to build a model yourself, so you pay Google. Say, every month I will use certain amount of I will have certain amount of request for sentiment analysis, and I pay a certain amount of money, and so that you don't have to build anything. Or you want to use open source models like from Hugginface, use transformer models, then you just use their open source and you build your own one. But the downside is you need to host this model by yourself. This is where the problems come in, because those models may be usually it's very resources intense. If you don't know how to optimize the model for speed, if you don't know how to, there's actually certain ways that you can distill the model and to make it smaller and at the same time maintain 99% of its accuracy. But if you don't know how to do this, you won't be able to really deploy that. Or you deploy that, you end up spending a lot of money, much more than you spend on the paying for Google, right? So there's something in between, which is this NLP Cloud.io looks like. I am now entirely understand its business model, but looks interesting. Okay, so their task is democratize NLP. So basically democratize AI, democratize anything. Is something that you heard very often. Whenever you heard this term, that means this domain is getting mature. Previously, NLP is really like purely research. Very few people reuse that in the real world. I mean, the neural NLP mentioned I use deep learning to do NLP things. And now in recent 5 years, especially these recent 3 years, it's getting mature, and the ecosystem just become more and more mature, so that more broader audience can use that. Even you are a high school student, you don't understand anything, any theory, any math behind that, you will still be able to use it. You just pip install and you can use it. So that's what the democratization of NLP means. And this founder, I think it's a solo founder of NLP cloud.io. He say, I saw many AI projects fail because of the deployment to production phase. I'm not sure it's true because I don't think that's as hard as they say. But maybe that's really hard because for the general public, maybe that's really hard. So that's the reason he founded this company. And so that they can, I think they host the open source solution. For example, you want to use Hugginface certain models, but you don't know how to host, or they will host that for you. I think that's what they do. I cannot get enough information from their website, and they have different tiers of plans. For example, if you want to use pre-trained models, you can have free plan, which is you can send three requests per minute, which is very low. I mean, if your traffic 3 requests per minute. But if you're just building your MVP, maybe it's a really good solution. You can just use their service. And when you have more traffic, you upgrade to other plans. They have starter plans, which is 15 requests per minute. They have enterprise GPU plans, 2,000 requests per minute. If you have more requests per minute, it definitely is not worth it to use this service. You will save more by building it yourself. But that's later. This probably is good for startups. Okay, and NLP is becoming like a commodity. Previously, if you want to build an NLP model, you need tons of researchers to train a model, to build a model, and to deploy the model. You need a lot of team. You need a lot of members of team, at least data scientists, develop engineers, and a couple of data scientists. You also need people to annotate your data. But now we have a lot of open source, even the pre-trained model due to self-supervised learning. We have super powerful pre-trained language models that you can fine-tune to many different downstream tasks. For example, if you want to fine-tune for the sentiment analysis, you just need to like a few thousand, maybe 1,000 examples, then your model can learn fairly well. Or you don't need to train that's actually a pre-trained one. You just use that. So it becomes a commodity. It's like commodity means you don't care which model you use. You care which one is the cheapest. Yeah, because most models already satisfy the basic requirement for many tasks. For example, sentiment analysis. Maybe the free one you can get is 91% accuracy. And the best one, state of the art, that you can get is 93%. The 2% maybe doesn't make that much difference in terms of user perception. So that's why it's become commodity. Having been in the AI for over like 6 years, I can tell you this is really true. Even I myself is an NLP data scientist, but I do feel a lot of people, they can do the same thing. I mean, it's not the same thing as me, but at least like 50% of the thing I'm doing without understanding too much of NLP knowledge. But definitely the rest of 50% is, if you want to go from the average to the best, that's what you need. But like building a lot of things, you don't need that much advanced knowledge. You don't need that accurate models, right? So that's why I feel is also like commodity. Let's just say if you want to build a news analysis, you want to use sentiment analysis model, then 90% accuracy maybe is good enough for you. And if you want 93% accuracy model, you can hire like a very like researchers, people that really have a deep understanding of that. Only they can push the accuracy from 90 to 93%. But does that 3% really make your users feel different? Probably not, especially when you are building something that's not focused on that. And most people just use that as a feature. So that's why like NLP is becoming a commodity. That's a thing that is worth thinking. Okay. So that's the thing I want to share with you today. Is basic. In conclusion, it's the trend that's going on in NLP, and it's super interesting. I think catching up, if you can finding some patterns from these trends, you can probably build something that's awesomely useful, right? So if you want to build something, analyze what I say, digest by yourself, come up with your ideas, your plan, and building your products. So that's yeah, that's it for today. If you would like to receive more AI, NLP, computer vision analysis, like a trends analysis or my thoughts on that, don't forget to subscribe. And other than that, I will see you next time.